Hello everyone! Welcome to the inner workings of my mind, where we're going to dive deep into my thoughts, behaviors, and instincts to understand and discuss my perception of things and its ties to psychology. I may be mistaken on some of the facts, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm no psychologist after all. The reason I'm doing this is because I have been deeply studying my mind for years now, and I felt like sharing some of this information to help others feel how a mentally impaired person thinks and maybe give some insight on the struggles that we go through. When I first started, I was studying the works of Wilhelm Wundt, and I saw brilliance in his method of introspection due to it indirectly being the basis of the modern study of perception psychology. Inspired by it, I used this method while trying to eliminate as many errors as possible to understand the mental obstacles I'm facing and find ways to work around them. Daily practice of introspection has led me to find out, after confirming with a practitioner, that I had severe ADHD, GAD, and recurrent depression, all of which I had referred to as ego and superego, naively inspired by Freud, for I had known that I had these conditions. I believed that through operant conditioning I could treat these problems by suppressing the ego, superego, punishment, while only letting me be expressed as a trait through reinforcement. During this process of isolating variables to discover my pure self, I had come across some spine-chilling observations on what me really is, which got me questioning free will generally. Before I started the process of introspection, I always thought that I had full control over my actions and my potential. If I did not finish something on time or did a subpar job at it, I would always tell myself that I could have done better, that I have more than, and that I was more than capable of doing better. In my eyes, I was slacking. At least that's what I've been told. Instead of studying, for example, I was on my phone or computer watching videos and playing video games for entertainment. This has led to a drop in my performance, which of course affected my grades. My parents were always flustered with my addiction to these devices. "Stop being lazy," they would say, and I would nod in agreement because I saw the same thing they did. I was lazy. In an attempt to cure my laziness and addiction, my parents would positively punish me by showing extreme disappointment. They encouraged hard work and discouraged laziness. Inspired by their idea of my situation, I decided to punish myself as well. I did not want to disappoint my parents anymore, and I had faith in my potential. All I need to do is work more and play less, I would tell myself. My determination to fix this problem encouraged me to try Ulysses Pact. It was simple. I would install apps on both my phone and computer to keep those devices locked at all times, with the exception of breaks. I thought that this would help me focus more on my studies and limit my playing time. The idea seemed good on paper. After all, that's how people usually treat their addictions, by blocking the cause. I installed the app on my phone, but I strangely found myself too lazy to install on the computer as well. I was baffled by that. The solution that I had come up with to solve the problem requires another solution to proceed with the initial solution. It was like a lock that required a key, but to obtain the key, another key was needed. But I brushed off this issue for the moment because I had successfully installed the applications on my phone. That's a good start for my Ulysses Pact, I thought. Although I could not install the applications on my computer, I was glad that I got something done. Now, all that was left was to see the results. Unfortunately, the solution had failed. It failed miserably. The lock on my phone has led me to discover clever ways to break it and access the phone anyway. It also made my addiction worse. I found myself spending a lot more time on the phone than usual. I also had the computer to use whenever I felt like it. This made it apparent to me that the solution did not fix the problem, it made it worse. I was very confused by this fact. Why would I go against my own will? I would ask myself. It was as though my body had a mind of its own. This led me to further punish myself for that behavior, hoping that whatever's controlling this other me would listen. Since I decided to break the lock and spend more time on the phone than usual, I made the decision to get rid of the phone completely and keep my computer away from my sight. I went to my parents and gave them my phone, told them to hide it somewhere I would never find. Once that was done, I was completely incapable of accessing my phone. This whole thing felt like raising a child who would not listen to you. A disconnect between me and my body was apparent. We did not share the same goals. The solution failed. Again, distancing myself away from my usual source of entertainment had driven me crazy. I started showing symptoms similar to that of a substance-dependent person. It felt like I needed my devices to function. Without them, I could barely concentrate or study. Studying felt more of a chore than before. I found myself laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, completely drained. I stayed that way for 3 hours. I had no will to get up at all. I was drained of all energy. I could imagine myself getting up. I could feel it, in fact. But every time I think I'm about to get up, I get disappointed by the fact that I didn't. In that moment, I had no control over my body. It was like telling a person with no legs to walk. It was impossible. However, I found a way to get over this obstacle. All I had to do was give my body what it craves: entertainment. I had to finally give in and give it what it really wanted after all that work. The thought of getting my phone back sprung me back up, and just like that, I was able to move again. I got my phone back and everything returned back to normal. The fact that I depend on these devices this much worried me. Am I ever going to overcome this problem? I asked myself. In the end, I did not solve anything, but at least I learned something about myself. I started to wonder if everyone has to raise their bodies like I am. Do all human beings have to struggle just to do what they want? Am I just lazy? Do successful people go through all of this to reach their goals? Is it really that hard to stop being lazy and do some work? I could not find the answer. I asked my parents what they think causes the issue that I'm facing, and they answered with sleep deprivation. The answer seemed reasonable to me. After all, sleep deprivation causes fatigue, which can cause laziness. I was skeptical, however. Why would lack of sleep cause me to lose control over myself? This did not make sense to me, so I decided to sit down, think, and do some research. It took several years, but I finally understood what was going on. Research had taught me that I was suffering from a word deficiency syndrome. Look at this research paper by Blum in the description. Connected all the dots for me and showed me why I was addicted to so many entertainment-related things. Devices that I could not stop using were providing me with enough dopamine to function, and without them, I would not have a good appetite or feel excitement of any form. Also affected my concentration and my working memory, generally. But the odd part that shocked me was that none of this was under my control. I was taught that I had the potential to stop being lazy and work on what I needed to do. I was taught that I am capable of doing anything because I was given free will. It shaped my perception such that I am capable of snapping out of this laziness and working. As it turns out, I had no will to do that. I had no free will. Every time I planned to do something, I could never guarantee that it will ever be done. My will depended on my mood. If I was in a bad mood, nothing would ever get done no matter how hard I tried. But if I was in a good mood, I would find myself capable of completing the tasks that I set for myself. Free will seemed to be non-existent. My will was purely based off of chemicals in my body that I had no say in. But my actions would only match what I want if said chemicals did their job normally. What really confirmed this for me was the medication plan I had started. Whenever depression hit me as a result of the side effects of the medication, I lost complete control of my body. I could only lay in bed all day. But when the medication worked, I was capable of doing what I want, whenever I want. This made it very clear to me that control and free will were an illusion. My perspective on free will changed entirely, and I started to wonder if human beings and animals had free will at all. I wanted to understand what free will really is. I've thought to myself day and night, thinking about it. We, human beings, can pick up a mug off a table whenever we want, I thought. We are perfectly capable of doing that until our hands become paralyzed, break, get cut off, malfunction, get interfered with. Already, free will seems to be so limited when looking at this example of picking up a mug. It becomes even more limited, however, when we apply the same example to the brain. We're all allowed to think freely or do anything until we get a concussion, a stroke, cognitive impairment, or any form of severe nervous interference. Our actions are limited to our brain, and if anything happens to it, our free will becomes even more limited. Our brains also control our individual moods through chemicals. If for some reason the right chemical was not released at the right time, we might change from cheerful to depressed, excited to empty, hopeful to hopeless, and restless to fatigued. It's like our personality is not decided by us in any way, shape, or form, whatever us is anyway. I still to this day think about these things. No matter how hard I tried, I could never find this free will that people talk about. As I understand it, many people can want to do something and be able to actually do it. But if their brains fail to do something properly, all of a sudden, the range of what they can do becomes very limited. What a world we live in.